Hi, welcome to Paving Paradise, a podcast dedicated to the asphalt paving industry. I'm Justin Rodriguez, and this is my Scott. My Scott.
You are the wind beneath my wings.
My co-host.
I could be your Scott.
Yeah. My co-host Scott Ramsey.
That's right.
I want you to say your name. That's
Scott Ramsey. That's who I am.
Yeah, but
sorry.
I should shoot it to you and you should just say your name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
Today we're going to talk about overlays. What is an overlay? I'm glad you asked. It's a thin layer of asphalt that's put over an existing layer of asphalt to resurface a parking lot or a driveway.
Or highway.
Yeah, a highway.
Yeah.
They've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's thin maintenance overlays. There's performance grade overlays where they'll put a thicker layer. But it's a good functional way to rehab an asphalt surface and give it new life. It's not the ultimate way to prolong life of a driveway, but it will kick the can down the road because whatever substrate, it's as good as whatever the substrate is, basically. So
Well, and I think it's one of those things we talked about reconstruction last time, and is a driveway, a parking lot, a roadway, a municipality, is it an option for an overlay? There's a lot of things I look at that aren't even an option for an overlay just because the structural damage, what's going on down below, what's going on underneath, and like you said,
liquefaction, that's a big one.
Yeah, liquefaction, that's a big word for you. Yeah. But yeah, there's certain times where an overlay isn't even an option because, like you said, you don't what's going on down below.
Right.
And I like, and this is for the customers out there, I like to sell an overlay that I know that's going to get them at least 15 to 20 years.
Right.
Now, if we're looking at something that's completely destroyed and they just want to smooth it out, I'll let them know, hey, you're going to get 5 to 10 out of this thing max.
Typically, I usually tell customers 10 years, 10, 15 years is like what a typical overlay will get you.
Right.
Depending on how cracked the subgrade
Correct.
is or how failed it is.
Correct.
So usually I tell them 10, 15 because cracks will reflect through.
Absolutely.
Even when you have PETROMATO down, I mean,
Sure.
you see cracks
Absolutely.
reflecting through. But
Well, why don't you let's talk about go into site prep,
Okay.
the grinding site prep. Let's talk to our viewers about that. And then we can go into different levels of adding in fabric interlayers, the thickness, how all of that, relates to it. So
Absolutely.
Go ahead and
So-
talk about site prep.
when someone comes out to inspect the site, they want to look at how stable the subgrade is. If you see what they call shoving, a lot of times when we brought up the big word liquefaction, now I'm stumbling over my own words. You'll see if the ground looks like it's swampy, that means you have a substrate issue. So that would need to get rectified before you can put an overlay on it. So site prep would be, the basic site prep would be just cleaning the lot, preparing it, and then possibly grinding with an asphalt cold planer along transitions and edges so you have a smooth match to any concrete.
If you don't see any of that rolling or displacement or liquefaction, then you don't have to address that, right?
Typically, no.
Yeah. So now we just go into conform grind, transition grind, whatever we want to call it. There's different words for it.
Sometimes, even if an area is not shoving, but it's really badly alligatored, it's a good idea maybe to just dig it out and do a patch in that area before you overlay.
Oh, yeah.
So you get extra strength.
Absolutely.
I've recommended that, and that gives you, it's value-added engineering basically for the customer.
Correct.
So they get something that's going to last a lot longer. Because if
Well,
you just put a thin layer over that fractured area, those cracks are going to reflect through.
Well, and we talked, I don't remember exactly what episode it was because we've done several now, but we talked that years ago, garbage trucks only weighed X.
Right.
Well, now they're 4 times bigger, and the parking lots and roadways are not built.
Yeah, they're 80,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're not
huge.
built for those huge garbage trucks now.
Right.
And so that's a very common, and I know you do it, I know we do it. There's times where we'll go in and we'll upgrade just the aisleway leading to the dumpster area.
Right.
Hoping that the garbage guy goes in, hopefully he just backs right out. He tries to get turned around in there, he's going to destroy the whole thing. So
and then when we talked about the full construction, we full remove and replace. I'm blanking on it.
Right.
Reconstruction. That's
Correct.
the word I was looking
Correct.
for. we talked about doing cement treatment basically on
Oh, yeah,
the subgrade.
that's right, that's
so
right.
kind of you did that with an overlay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's a good way to get things done.
Dig it out and just put it in beefier in that section.
Absolutely.
Like I said, just to remind everybody, 1 inch of base is equal. 1 inch of asphalt is equal to 4 inches of base. So you're going to get the structural strength of 4 inches of base per 1 inch of asphalt.
Right.
So
besides that, so when you get the lot clean, get all the weeds pulled out, even sometimes we'll put hot rubberized crack filler in the cracks below
that's
that,
done.
so it seals
Correct.
up the cracks below. We talked about grinding for conform grinding. Do you want to go into that a little more, or is that?
I think you should.
Yeah. So a grinder is a machine. It's a drum with teeth on it, and it will mill down the surface. So whatever existing grade you have, you can drop it and conform the new grade to that surface, so you don't wind up with a hump going to a concrete
Correct.
edge.
Well, and if you don't do a taper grind, it's called conform grind, taper grind, edge grind,
wedge grind.
wedge grind. Yeah, wedge grind. If you don't do that, if you skip that process, you've got two choices. You either leave the asphalt up real high as a trip hazard, or, and I've seen this done more often than not,
cut it and pull it out.
No, that would be another right way of doing it. But haven't you seen where they just taper down to nothing?
Oh yeah, where they go to zero on the edge.
And then you end up with a thin layer of asphalt, and then within a year or two, it just starts crumbling away.
And that's a bad way to do it too, because it's still humped up. The aggregate has a thickness to it. It's like a 3/8 or a
Minimum.
½ inch. So you have that weird little raveled
Correct.
lip, and it just falls apart.
Oh,
and
it's terrible.
unravels.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it looks bad. So yeah, that's a really good thing to consider when you're doing an overlay, is make sure you're tapering down. The other thing that I do sometimes when I overlay is mill the whole surface down. So
Yep.
we drop the grade completely.
Correct.
As long as there's a stable substrate below.
Correct.
Because then it's not a good idea to pave over a really thin layer of asphalt. I think it'd be better just sitting on the base. Or do you think that's
No,
bad
I mean,
idea?
you're 100% correct. Yeah, because there are times where, let's say you have, and we've done it. We've made the same mistake. We're going in thinking, okay, this was built at 3 inch, so we're gonna grind it down 1.5 inches. Well, we go to grind it down 1.5 inches, and we're down to base.
Yeah.
Think, oh my gosh,
That happens a lot.
it happens a lot. You look at something and you assume, wow, this looks nice. It's just an old surface. It's dry. It's ratty. And you say, wow, we're assuming a lot in our industry, but you assume it's 3 inches and you get the grinder on it.
That's a good point. We don't have X-ray goggles. Like we don't know what's down there. The only way to do it really is to core
Correct.
a lot in several areas to try and average out what the thickness might be.
Right.
And a lot of times they'll do that for a big project or people but not everybody wants to spend money on that. If
No.
you're doing a little 3,000 square foot parking lot,
Correct.
they're not going to want to spend $300-400 for someone to go out there, core it out, and figure out the average thickness, and then they got to patch those little holes back
Yep.
in so you don't leave a trip hazard.
That's right.
So
well,
it's-
people expect us to be the professionals. They
Yeah.
expect you and I to be the professionals. And, I'm sure you've heard it in your career 1,000 times. I know I've heard it in my career 1,000 times. Well, you're the professional.
Yeah.
We go to Mary Joe homeowner, and we're like, well, we weren't expecting this. And, well, you're the professional. So.
Yeah, it's always thrown in your lap. It's like, hey, but that's why we would try and cover our bases, and that's why we're doing these instructional videos to try and get that word out there, and hopefully we can.
Correct.
People will see this and learn. Hey, this is what it takes to put an overlay. It's not just, hey, we'll come out here and slap the asphalt down on top
Right.
of the surface. And
Well, and I hope. I mean, in my career with the proposals that we put together, if our proposals make the homeowner question further proposals when they come in for them to get a better job, then I feel like even if I don't get the work,
yeah,
then at least I feel like I've done my job. Exactly like you said, if we have in our proposal taper grind, edge grind, and everybody else quoting the job really wasn't figuring that, well, the homeowners or the property management company or whoever we're working for, that's going to make them question, well, why isn't everybody else? Is this really important?
right.
It gives you the opportunity to say, well, yeah, it's absolutely important. So, and this is just, if this video can help answer those questions before people go out to bid, and they already know what they want. Okay, we want a 2-inch overlay with an inner layer, and I've noticed since I started this company, the consumers are a lot more educated.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot, and I'm sure you've noticed that too. When you go meet with Joe Schmo homeowner or Mary Jo management company, they already kind of know what they're looking for.
I think the contractors out there are doing a good job of explaining what they're doing. Because they're going to get multiple bids a lot of times. Or do you think it's just the internet in general?
I think it's internet. I think they're Googling. I mean, you've got a website. I've got a website. We've got, things that, pictures of our new equipment and, that we're showcasing. And, well, what is that? Oh, grinder. I'm going to click on grinder, go to grinding, and they see the taper cut.
Yeah.
I've noticed people are a lot more educated.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's a lot of bad information out on the internet, so hopefully we're not doing that here. That's why we want to do these videos, is to hopefully give good information, especially out here in the West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So besides grinding, the next thing we want to talk about is you want to do PETROMAT or the grade of asphalt thickness. I mean, there's so many different things that go into it.
I think we should go in order, chronological order, as if we were building a lot.
Yeah.
So you talked about site prep, cleaning, sometimes hot crack filling. I mean, our goal with an overlay is to provide a new surface and to minimize reflective cracking as long as possible.
Right.
And as Justin mentioned, inner layers, hot crack fill.
And
the reason why I don't like hot crack fill is you heat, when you're just through the paving process, you heat that crack filler back up and it starts peeling.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan. We've done it.
What about cold pour? Does cold pour work at all, or just?
I think. In an overlay situation, I think it would be a waste.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it would be a waste.
That's good.
But yeah. So let's go through chronological order. Site prep, pull the weeds, crack fill if need be.
Grind on the edges.
Taper grind.
And then there's the you got to bond it to the surface. So
that would be in with
the PETROMAT, and then
exactly.
Either you're going to use SS1H, or if you're using PETROMAT, you want to use PG64-10.
Hot oil, correct.
Yeah.
So and that would be looking at it with your professional. To all of you consumers out there, can we just put a binder coat down, which Justin said, and some kind of a tack oil? Can we put just a binder coat down to glue new to old, or if we want to minimize cracking, put down an inner layer? So those would be the two choices.
Yeah.
Now I have seen where there are overlays done. Well, actually, you told me about a video where some jokers, some jokers on YouTube, they did an overlay, and I remember you called me and said, "Hey, they don't use tack oil back east," and I said, "Well, I think they do. You should."
Yeah.
And there's lots of videos online where the guys are just throwing down.
And even you said, "Hey, the driveway turned out pretty good."
But it looked decent. Yeah.
And then, but it was funny because I went down in the comments and like 4 comments down. Aren't you supposed to put tack down? And like some other people were saying, yeah, we put tack down where we're from. You know?
I think it's pretty normal.
Yeah, I think you should, because it works. It really does bond the asphalt, the SS1H.
Well, the thing is, so let's talk about that for a second. So what happens if we skip that step? Let's just pretend that we skip that step. So we put the asphalt down on a surface, and what's going to happen is over a short period of time, like within 5 years, depending on the thickness of the overlay, what's going to end up happening is that overlay is going to start moving independent from the surface below.
It'll delaminate.
It delaminates. And as soon as that happens, it is all bad at that point, because then the only way to fix it is really just to grind it off.
Grind it off.
Strip it off and start over. And you just wasted tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars for something that's going to have to be redone within 5 years.
Right. Yeah, because you want it to last 10, 15 years.
Correct.
It should. So, ambulance going.
Oh yeah, another guy. Yeah, they always. Yeah.
It's an emergency. They didn't put tack down. So.
That's a good one. Yeah, good one.
So tack bonds it, and then bonding PETROMAT to the substrate before you pave.
Correct.
You want to talk about the PG6410 liquid asphalt? Or?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, in order for a paving fabric to really be effective, the paving fabric has to be, just imagine it as if the PETROMAT was this black blanket. We need this black blanket glued, adhered to the surface as much as possible. The only way to get that done is to use a non-emulsified asphalt. It's
Yeah.
just pure
It's just oil.
pure liquid asphalt.
Yeah.
Pure liquid oil, pure liquid asphalt. It's sprayed pretty thick, sprayed at 2/10.
Yeah.
That's a pretty heavy shot. And the fabric has to go on the oil immediately as it goes down. Us specifically, we have a truck mounted bar that as the truck drives, it just lays the mat down. There's other guys that have tractors, and they work just as good. And the truck takes off.
What about for a parking lot? Because I've seen guys roll it out and they'll put it down first, and then they drive over and put the oil down, or is that because confines of, or
So the oil is on top of the mat?
yeah, or do they put the oil down first?
No,
and
yeah, I mean, I have seen guys do that, but it's not
Yeah.
right because you got to look at the PETROMAT has a top and a bottom.
right,
So the top, if it's put down correctly, the top is a waterproof barrier. Water can't penetrate through. So what needs to happen is the fabric needs to be glued, sucked down from the bottom.
right,
So and then what happens when you drive the hot asphalt over, it weeps the oil through. So just think of PETROMAT as being a one-way valve.
right,
Water and oil can't go through, but water and oil can get sucked
come
from
up.
the bottom.
Right.
We don't want water, but the oil gets sucked through, and as the oil gets sucked through the fabric, it grabs that new mat and it just adheres it. And if it's done correctly, it becomes one.
right.
So if you have 3 inches of asphalt on the bottom and we just put 2 inches on top, now you have a 5-inch structure. It's going to be pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's going to be way strong.
So the drawbacks to PETROMAT is usually down the road for us. I've seen it because a lot of people have put it down over the years because of the benefits, the longevity it would give to the asphalt. But I've seen it where now when you go to grind and mill out a road, it's hard to get rid of it because the people don't either want it or it's expensive to dispose of it.
Well, and
because they
that's-
have to pull the PETROMAT because they'll make it. They recycle the asphalt into the new asphalt. They'll use wrap or even a road base. They don't really want it in there because it
Correct.
It messes up the end product.
Well, and the jobs you're talking about are the jobs where the contractor isn't putting a layer of oil on the bottom before they put the fabric down. So literally, and I've seen this 1,000 times, especially in our area, where guys are they're just rolling out the fabric, stapling it or nailing it to the surface.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. I've seen guys
And
doing
that's
that
it.
and drive by and they.
So then there's guys like Justin and I that come along, and we go to grind it off, and all that fabric just starts coming out in sheets. I mean, it is terrible. But if it's done correctly, you have the bottom layer, the inner layer, and you use the hot oil, the inner layer, and then more asphalt on top. When you go, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, when you go to grind that up, it all grinds harmoniously.
Right.
And that PETROMAT or Emirify or PETROMAT, there's lots of different brands out there. It all grinds perfectly. And and then when it goes into, like you said, when it goes into the wrap,
Right.
they heat it up and it just melts away.
Right, because it's supposed to kind of be melted to the surface in a way, right? When you put that hot oil, it really bonds.
So it never, and actually there was because we do a ton of PETROMAT every year. We do hundreds of thousands of square feet per year. And one of our competitors was going around telling customers that, oh, it's hazardous, you can't get rid of it, and they really put a big scare in the area. And then we actually came up, with the help of Shane, we came up with a full flyer that said, hey, this isn't an old school product. This is a new Caltrans, DOT, there's hundreds of millions of square yards of this going down every year because it still is very, very effective.
Yeah, the problem
When
is
it's
the guys
done
aren't
right.
putting it down correctly.
They're not installing it correctly.
Right.
That's the whole problem. And I mean, that's, that in lies with anything. You have an electrician that doesn't do the wiring right, or there's gonna be problems down the road. So there's very, very specific steps. And the reason why, let's talk to the consumer out there. Well, oh my God, if it's that important, why would somebody skip it? The reason why somebody would skip it is because it's a minimum $3,500 just to get an oil truck out there.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
So, and then that's another reason they don't want to spend the cost. And you have to schedule it with a, company out of a distant area to come in and put it. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
they're not.
So
many
there's a
people that have
minimum.
those trucks.
There's a minimum charge. I mean, not everybody owns and operates those trucks. So you like Justin said, you got to hire a company that specializes in putting down road oils like that.
Yeah.
So that would be the reason why somebody would skip it. But you're 100% correct. It just causes a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah. So the other thing that, well, I don't know, the fact that the PETROMAT does give a longevity. I think the segue would be it's the thickness, because
Correct.
even if you put a PETROMAT down and you only put an inch down on top of it, it's not gonna last very long.
Zero effectiveness.
I think that was where I was going, is the fact that people are scared of it because they've seen it delam, and you know when you're going out and measuring a parking lot in a lot and you hear it like hollow with a wheel, like you'll hear the hollow spots.
You almost feel it. You almost feel it
it's
moving.
It's not solid.
Right.
No wonder it's breaking apart.
Right.
No wonder it's broken away. So so let's go into thickness design
Correct.
for the overlay.
So now we've determined viewers we have to prep. I mean, prep is everything in any industry.
That's the longest
You're
part.
you're gonna paint a car. You're
Yeah.
gonna frame a house. I mean, the prep is the longest
Yeah,
part.
painting a wall,
Painting
or
a wall,
sanding it
yeah,
down, everything.
yeah.
So it's the same thing, and that's what takes the longest. It's the messiest, the dustiest. That
Correct.
Especially if you're grinding, it makes a big mess.
Correct.
But if it's done correctly, you're going to get a good end
Correct.
product.
So we've determined we need to prep. We need the taper grind. All jobs, you either like Justin said, you either need a taper grind or mill the entire surface. We've already determined that. Now we've already determined. Let's just roll with. We've decided that PETROMAT or an inner layer is appropriate. We've already decided that, okay, we know we need the right oil. Pay the $35. You're investing tens of thousands. $3,500 is a cheap insurance policy to make sure you get the right product.
Right.
And then let's talk about thickness, because now we have to determine the thickness. And so go ahead. I'll let you take over.
I think thickness depends on how bad the substrate is.
Exactly.
Because the more cracked it is, I think the thicker you want to go for a more stable finish. And then also drainage is a big thing. So you don't want to put 3 inches down and you have a really flat area, and you're going to create a ponding issue.
You're screwed. Yeah. You know.
So,
well, and that's the thing. I think I said it in episode 1 when myself and my guys go out and look at a job. Or maybe it was episode 2. Is reconstruct or an overlay very, very simple. Drainage.
Yep.
Is an overlay even an option? Can we raise this entire surface up minimum 2 inches and still get it to drain?
One of the concrete guys that I've dealt with over the years, he goes, the most important thing, where's the water going to go? Where's the water going to go?
Yeah,
it's like that, and
it's
that's
so destructive.
That's so
the
true.
water is so destructive.
Yeah. Not only that, if you have water running into someone's garage or it's ponding, it's not getting out. That's a big no-no. You don't want. You don't want to create an issue. You're there to create a functioning.
Well, and
driveway.
as a contractor, we have to stand behind our work, and there's nothing worse than, and it always happens every year because we're not perfect. Justin is close to being perfect, but but the first rain of the year, I always know November, the first rain of the year. Hey Scott, we got a pond out here. And so it's just one of those things. Yeah, we don't want to raise it up because then we're just chasing our problem around.
That's why
trying to get the water out of a garage, and then we're trying to burn in these little funky swales and flow lines, and it's just.
I know, and it doesn't look
awful.
very good.
It doesn't look
done.
good. Yeah.
But that's why I always tell my customers I try to mill the surface down completely.
Mm-hmm.
When I do an overlay, it's just the way I roll, I guess. So I would rather make sure I get those drainage because the drainage is so important.
Correct. That's a surefire way. The way your approach is, once again, it's a very cheap insurance policy. You got to have the grinders out there to just go wall to wall with it. It's just it ensures
exactly.
It ensures you're going to make it right.
Exactly, and then you're putting down at least 2 inches or 2.5 or more. Let's say 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
Typically for an overlay.
Well, so with
depends on the.
let me take this one. So if you're doing an overlay with no inner layer, no PETROMAT, 1.5 inches is okay. You don't want to go, trade standard is 1.5 inches minimum.
Right.
Now, the asphalt plants will tell you who we buy our asphalt from. They'll tell you, hey, if you're putting less than 1.5 inches, we can't warranty the asphalt.
Right.
So you want to go 1.5 inches minimum. Now, this is where people a lot smarter than I am have come in and helped me over the years, and where the internet has done good and helped me over the years. There's been a lot of studies on doing inner layers. Now, one important study that I found, and this was done, Caltrans did it, Michigan Transportation, Illinois Transportation, I don't know if it was statewide or Chicago, but they did this interesting study, and they did these roadways, and they did inner layer, and they followed these roads for a long time. Right. So they did an inner layer, 1.5 inches. They followed it for 5 years. 0 reduction in reflective cracking. So what that means, they paid for PETROMAT for no. They paid for the PETROMAT for nothing.
It didn't work.
It did not work.
Right.
So now this is interesting. So then they did another section of roadway. They bumped it up, same PETROMAT, same hot oil, same everything. They bumped it up to 2 inches. In 5 years, 80% reduction in reflective cracking.
Oh wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. So all of my jobs, no matter what, I mean, because I'm straight with people. I tell them, they say, hey, well, all your competitors are bidding 1.5 inches, and I say, yeah, I'll do 1.5 inches, but why don't we back out the inner layer? You're spending 20 to 25 cents a square foot for an inner layer. Why even buy it? Let's just put a binder down and just do 1.5 inches.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Me too. And it works.
If the homeowner's okay with it, or whoever.
The thing is, the
dealing with.
homeowners are usually very budget conscious, so that's part of the equation.
But most people are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Even-
at the end of the day, most people are.
Even properties, apartment buildings,
Yeah.
everything, commercial buildings, they are.
Right.
They're gonna, a lot of times they're going to choose the cheapest guy. So, hopefully the cheapest qualified.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
knows
Yeah.
these things.
Correct.
So there's thickness design. Now there's grade of asphalt too. So
Very important.
I don't know. I've had success and not so much success with 3/8.
Mhm.
I usually do a 1/2 inch fine mixture, but I don't know. What do you think in 3/8 versus a 1/2 inch?
I 100% agree. So in construction, now it doesn't matter whether we're doing, and our next episode we're going to talk about chip seals, but it doesn't matter if we're doing a chip seal, asphalt, concrete, building a dam, it doesn't matter. Guys, the simplest thing is, the bigger the rock, the stronger it'll be.
Yeah, the more tensile strength it has.
Correct. So you don't really hear this so much anymore, but 3/8 mixes, back in the day, and your dad will know this, back in the day, 3/8 mixes were referred to as school mix.
Right.
So you never really heard people refer to 3/8 medium or 3/8 fine.
Right.
It was always school mix, because you want the playground to be smooth
For basketball.
for
playground,
kids and the knees and the elbows, and a 1/2 inch grade asphalt's a little bit more abrasive, even if you go with a fine mix.
There's a lot more fines in it, so it has a lot more sand.
Well, the stone is smaller, more fines. But you just don't get the strength out of it.
No,
you absolutely don't. I mean, honestly, I can't even. I could probably I could look it up in our archives and find a job we paved with 3/8, but offhand I can't remember.
I don't think
can't
it's
even
been
remember.
a long time.
Yeah. We'll use 3/8 for skim patching and thin overlays and stuff.
I've done it,
but
and it was in a hot area, and it stayed really gummy for a long time. That was the problem. I don't know if it was a bad mix or a bad batch. They mixed too much oil.
Too
I
much
think it was
oil.
a lot of oil.
Yeah, a lot of oil. Yeah.
And the sand, and it just when they turned the wheel,
it moved. Yeah.
That was not that wasn't good.
So I mean, to make it real simple, for the viewers, I mean, I would say if you're doing a playground or something that's not going to get a whole lot of vehicular traffic, I would say stick with the school mix or the 3/8. Anything that cars are going to be driving on, 1/2 inch material is probably most appropriate.
Yeah. Is there any? So we had site prep, the grade of asphalt. Anything else that you can think of that's gonna go into an over? I mean, I think we hit most of the points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other topic that we haven't really hit on yet, and that goes into rolling, and this is mostly for the contractors out there. As for you contractors out there, the thinner material you put down, the quicker you have to get on it with the roller.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true.
When I'm out there paving with the guys, and I see my roller operator looking around, and I've actually put together these and I have my office put together these laminated charts, and it's just a quick reference guide that shows what it does is it takes some certain variables. It takes the temperature of the asphalt. It takes how thick a mat are we putting down?
The temperature of the ground.
Yeah. Temperature of the ground, ambient temperature,
right,
and the temperature of the asphalt, and the thickness. Those are the 4 variables, and puts it into a real easy, quick user guide. So on a day where we're doing an 1.5-inch overlay at 70 degrees,
pretty smart that you did that.
60% humidity.
Right.
And most people don't realize that when you're using 75 degrees, 2-inch asphalt, surface temp, let's say, is 80 degrees, you've only got about 1.5 minutes to get the roller on the mat.
I know.
You don't have that much time.
Because by the time it goes off the truck, it's breaking up already, the heat's escaping, it goes through the paving machine, then
Yes.
on the ground, under the screed, and then sitting there.
Thermal conditions, that
And then
heat
the drum of the
escapes
roller is
fast.
steel, so that's another thing. You got to get the drum on it really quick. 'Cause
Yeah.
once it passes over it, or the plate, it's cooling it down even more.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's
So that's the
10%,
thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing with overlays that I can't stress enough to people. I mean, you can have, and people laugh when I say this, when you're paving a parking lot or association or you're doing an overlay, you can have a mediocre paver operator. You can have a mediocre, ground team. Your rakers, your shovelers,
It's
your
the
vibe
roller
plate
guy.
guys.
It's the roller guy.
Your roller guy is going to save your bacon. He's
Yep.
going to be the one that makes or breaks the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not leaving marks and
Correct.
Yeah.
Needing it, being right up on the ass into the paver all the time. I mean, once the drum gets heated up to the same temp, because all veteran operators that I've talked to, oh no, I got to let that asphalt cool down.
No.
Or no, dude,
Yep.
get on it right away, because as soon as that drum heats up to the same temperature as the asphalt and you keep it lubricated with water, you'll never have any issues with it.
And not only that, I think what they're not, a lot of the older guys especially, they're not used to the different materials that we're using now, because there's wrap asphalt, which is
Way different. Way
than what
different.
they were doing with virgin mix,
Yes.
where it was just fresh aggregate, hotter material,
Right.
and it was more forgiving.
Right.
Whereas the wrap, it's cooling down a lot faster, and they
Correct.
got to jump on it faster.
Well, they're making it hotter. I mean, and I don't really know a whole lot about making the asphalt, but from what I'm being told from our suppliers, virgin material, they could produce it at 315. I mean, the drum temp gets up to
Right.
about 315. That's maximum. These days, just to get the wrap and everything to get
to mix
harmonious
together.
together,
Correct.
they're going in upwards of 335, 340 to
Yeah.
get everything mixed up. And then, but the thing I like about wrap now, I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I know you were, I was, we all were pulling our hair out with wrap,
Yeah.
because these guys were still trying to figure it out. Now they've got it down to where it's strong. It is really strong.
And what it was problem is, like, we do like little homeowners associations where the roller couldn't get to like a little garage on the side or something. There's no room to park the roller
Right.
in there, so that was challenging the whole wrap, because it would ravel.
Oh, it
would fall
comes apart. It
Yeah.
comes apart really. Yeah.
Especially like if you're doing a thin over like 1.5 inch,
Yeah.
and it's overcast day or something.
Right.
Yeah, it could spell disaster.
Well,
for your paving job.
like I say, yeah, you contractors out there, if nothing else, make sure you put the money into the maintenance of the rollers. Make sure the water systems are working good, and make sure you've got enough rollers. And not even really veteran roller operators. I mean, really, you need to have one on most size paving jobs. You need to have one good breakdown roller guy, and then you can pretty much throw any other Joe Schmo on a roller and say, hey, now you just need it. We're breaking it down this way.
Right.
You go back the other way and just right behind. But
Right.
if you've got one good veteran breakdown roller operator, your job should go pretty nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about overlays or?
I think that's it. I think we covered everything. The
Yeah.
prep, whether to determine, fabric. You mentioned in the beginning, a big thing in order to make an overlay successful, addressing structural damage.
Right.
I mean, our overlay is only as good as the surface it's going on.
That's right.
So-
Yeah, because you're gilding the surface. I like to use
Yeah.
that word, gilding. You're just putting a
Yeah.
layer on top.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. It's as good as whatever's going on top.
Right.
So.
Right. What
Yeah.
is that? Gilding?
Yeah.
It's like gilding.
Gilded is as a word, like they used to like gild like bird cages, like put like a faux gold. It'd be like just some cheap iron underneath.
Isn't that like what they do to like
like
horses
chrome.
and dogs and like gilding them, like castrating them? Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
I don't know.
Am I
You might
right
wanna
about
cut
that?
that
I don't
out.
know. Are we gonna cut that? I don't know. But yeah, no. Anyway, yeah. Jake's going and getting gilded in next week. Yeah, my dog. Yeah. Anyway, not that anybody need to know
I thought
that.
you were talking about my brother.
Yeah, your brother. Yeah, maybe him too. I don't know.
All All right,
Anyway,
guys.
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah,
Hopefully
we covered
that
a lot.
answers-
Yeah, we
did.
covered a lot. Yeah,
hopefully
was
that answers your questions
info.
about overlays, and we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, any questions, hit us up.
Yeah.
All right.